Good morning, I'm Remo, and this is the Daily Signal for November 19th, 2025. We're starting with breaking news that's developing right now. Armed gunmen have kidnapped 25 schoolgirls from a secondary school in Nigeria's Kebbi state, sparking fears of another Boko Haram-style mass abduction. Rescue operations are underway as we speak, but this is every parent's worst nightmare becoming reality.
Unfiltered. Now.
That's just the beginning. Here are 9 more critical stories breaking today that could reshape the global landscape. Breaking: Israeli airstrike kills 13 people near Lebanese refugee camp. Regional war fears intensify. Urgent: Poland accuses Russian secret services of major railway sabotage attack. NATO confrontation risk escalates. Explosive: Trump defends Saudi crown prince over journalist murder during Washington talks. International outrage erupts. Shocking: UK proposes devastating new asylum policy with 20-year citizenship wait and asset seizures. Crisis: Japan scrambles to prevent war as China tensions explode over Taiwan remarks. Alert: Britain warns China over massive spying operation following MI5 emergency briefing. Developing: Zelensky races to Turkey in desperate bid to jumpstart Russia peace talks. Unprecedented: Chile's far-right surges to power in Congress. Political earthquake rocks Latin America. Controversial: Trump's new HIV prevention plan deliberately excludes South Africa, the world's most affected nation. These stories are developing fast. Let's get the critical details you need to know. Breaking in Nigeria: this is happening right now. 25 schoolgirls have been kidnapped from Government Girls Secondary School in Kebbi State by armed militants. This is the nightmare scenario we've seen before, reminiscent of the 2014 Chibok girls kidnapping that shocked the world. What authorities aren't telling you: this attack happened in broad daylight yesterday, with witnesses reporting the gunmen arrived on motorcycles, overwhelming security forces. The Nigerian military has launched emergency rescue operations, but these girls are now in the hands of suspected Boko Haram terrorists. This could mean we're looking at another international crisis. Remember, 110 of the Chibok girls are still missing after 11 years. Parents are gathering at the school, desperate for news, while international organizations scramble to offer support. The stakes are staggering. Nigeria's security crisis is spiraling out of control, and this attack proves no school, no child is safe. This is developing rapidly as rescue teams race against time. Meanwhile, another situation is spiraling in Lebanon. An Israeli airstrike near the Ain al-Hilwa Palestinian refugee camp has killed 13 people, including women and children. This happened just hours ago, and the implications are staggering. The crisis deepens because Lebanon is now directly in the crosshairs. Hezbollah has threatened immediate retaliation, and we're looking at the very real possibility of a wider regional war. This single strike could ignite the entire Middle East. What this means for everyone: oil markets are already reacting, and if this escalates, we could see global economic chaos. The Israel-Hamas conflict is no longer contained to Gaza. It's spreading, and Lebanon becoming a battlefield changes everything. Sources confirm our worst fears. Tensions along the Israel-Lebanon border are at breaking point. One miscalculation, one retaliatory strike, and we could see a full-scale war involving multiple countries. Adding to today's chaos, Poland is accusing Russian intelligence of orchestrating a major railway sabotage attack that crippled critical supply lines in eastern Poland. This is hybrid warfare in action, and it's happening on NATO's doorstep. The situation is deteriorating because this isn't just about Poland. These railway lines carry military supplies to Ukraine. Russia is essentially attacking NATO infrastructure to choke off Ukrainian support. Polish officials are calling it an act of war. This is far worse than initially reported. NATO is now monitoring the situation, and we could be looking at Article 5 territory. If NATO determines this was a Russian attack on member territory, we're talking about potential military response. The implications: Russia is testing Western resolve, and Poland is demanding action. This could be the spark that brings NATO into direct confrontation with Russia. The situation is escalating by the hour. In related breaking news, President Trump has caused international outrage by publicly defending Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman over the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This happened during their Washington meeting yesterday, and the political explosion is just beginning. Shocking revelations show Trump dismissed the 2018 killing as old news and politically motivated, directly contradicting U.S. intelligence findings. Human rights organizations are calling it a betrayal of democratic values, and even the State Department is distancing itself. This could mean complete breakdown of accountability for authoritarian regimes worldwide. If a former U.S. president and potential future president openly defends murder of journalists, what message does that send to dictators everywhere? This is realpolitik at its most cynical, and it's happening right now. But that's not the only crisis today. The UK government has proposed perhaps the most draconian asylum policy in modern Western history, forcing asylum seekers to wait 20 years for citizenship while seizing their assets. This is unprecedented, and the backlash is immediate. The situation is deteriorating because this essentially criminalizes seeking asylum. Legal experts are calling it a violation of international law, and the policy could face immediate court challenges. The UK's international reputation is on the line. What authorities aren't telling you, this could trigger a massive refugee crisis as people avoid the UK entirely, pushing the burden onto other European nations. The EU is already expressing concerns, and diplomatic tensions are rising. This affects everyone because it sets a terrifying precedent. If the UK can essentially imprison asylum seekers in legal limbo for 2 decades, other countries could follow suit. We're watching the collapse of international humanitarian norms in real time. Meanwhile, another major crisis is unfolding in East Asia. Japan is scrambling to prevent all-out confrontation with China after Prime Minister Takaichi's comments about Taiwan triggered the worst diplomatic crisis in decades. Chinese military activity around Taiwan has surged dramatically. Crisis deepens, with Beijing warning Japan of crushing defeat if it continues supporting Taiwan independence. This isn't diplomatic posturing. Chinese warships and aircraft are conducting aggressive maneuvers, and miscalculation could trigger actual combat. The stakes: this could spark the Pacific War everyone fears. Japan and China are nuclear powers with massive economies. If this escalates to military confrontation, global markets would collapse, and we'd be looking at potential World War III scenarios. As I'm speaking, Japanese officials are conducting emergency diplomatic outreach, but the damage may already be done. China sees this as existential threat to Taiwan reunification, and they're not backing down. The crisis deepens as we turn to another explosive confrontation between Western powers and China. The UK is issuing unprecedented warnings about Chinese espionage after MI5 issued an emergency security alert about massive intelligence operations on British soil. This story is still unfolding, but sources reveal Chinese agents have penetrated critical infrastructure, government agencies, and private companies at levels never seen before. The Home Secretary's warning that Britain will not tolerate Chinese spying represents a complete breakdown of relations. Major disruption hits UK-China diplomatic ties, with potential for economic sanctions, diplomatic expulsions, and complete intelligence cooperation shutdown. This could trigger a new Cold War between Britain and Beijing. This is happening right now. Security services are reviewing all Chinese-linked activities, and we could see mass arrests and deportations. The implications for global trade, technology sharing, and diplomatic stability are enormous. Unprecedented situation develops as Ukrainian President Zelensky prepares for emergency talks in Turkey tomorrow, potentially the most important diplomatic meeting since the war began. This could be the breakthrough everyone's been waiting for, or it could signal Ukraine's desperation. Critical breaking point reached because Ukraine's position is weakening daily. Western support is wavering, Russian forces are advancing, and winter is approaching. Zelensky knows this might be his last chance for negotiated settlement. The situation: Turkey is positioning itself as the peace broker, but at what cost? Any deal could require massive Ukrainian territorial concessions, essentially rewarding Russian aggression. The moral implications are staggering. What this means globally: if Ukraine accepts a negotiated defeat, it sends message to every aggressor nation that invasion pays off. China's watching Taiwan implications, and every dictator is taking notes. Tomorrow's talks could reshape international law forever. Emergency response as Chile's political landscape undergoes massive upheaval, with far-right parties surging to unprecedented power in Congress. This represents a complete rejection of traditional Chilean politics and signals broader regional transformation. The implications are staggering. Chile has been Latin America's democratic success story, but voters just elected candidates advocating radical constitutional changes, mass deportations, and authoritarian measures. This is political earthquake territory. Sources confirm the far right still needs coalition partners to pass reforms, but their agenda includes dismantling environmental protections, restricting immigration, and potentially withdrawing from international agreements. Regional stability is at risk. This affects everyone because Chile's copper controls global markets, and political instability there sends shockwaves through international commodity prices. We're watching democratic backsliding in real time, unprecedented situation as Trump's new HIV prevention initiative deliberately excludes South Africa, the nation with the world's highest HIV burden. This isn't just bad policy, it's potential humanitarian catastrophe disguised as public health planning. What authorities aren't telling you, excluding South Africa from global HIV efforts could trigger massive disease resurgence, FEN, affecting millions of people and potentially creating new drug-resistant strains that threaten global health security. The stakes: this decision appears politically motivated, punishing South Africa for its positions on Israel and Ukraine. Using disease prevention as diplomatic weapon represents new low in international relations. This could mean complete collapse of global health cooperation. If the U.S. starts picking and choosing which countries deserve disease prevention based on politics, every international health initiative becomes hostage to diplomatic disputes. This is all part of a bigger picture. What we're witnessing today is the systematic breakdown of international order. From Nigeria to Lebanon, from Poland to Japan, from Britain to Chile, the institutions and agreements that have maintained global stability are cracking under pressure. The pattern is clear: authoritarian, aggression is increasing, democratic norms are eroding, and international cooperation is collapsing. Russia attacks NATO infrastructure. China threatens democratic allies. Former U.S. presidents defend murderous dictators. Britain abandons humanitarian obligations. These aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a world order in crisis. The question isn't whether major conflict is coming, it's whether democratic institutions can survive what's already here. We'll continue monitoring these developing situations because every one of these stories could explode into global crisis within hours. The next 24 hours could determine whether we're heading for World War III or if diplomacy can pull us back from the brink. This has been the Daily Signal. I'm Remo, and we'll be back tomorrow with the latest developments on these critical stories. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, knowledge is your first line of defense in an unstable world.
Unfiltered. Now.